Welcome to the Foster Medina podcast series, where you'll hear from foster families who overcame their own fears and made the decision to make a difference. If you're thinking about becoming a foster parent, this podcast may provide the answers you are looking for. Now here's your host, Bryan Lefelhoc.
Hello and welcome to the Foster Medina podcast, where we discuss real issues, real challenges, and real success stories about becoming and being a foster parent. My name is Bryan Lefelhoc. I am thrilled and honored. It's been my pleasure to bring this series to you. There's a full YouTube channel and podcast platforms out there of these stories that we have done, interviewing and talking with current and recent foster parents who have decided to make that change and make that impact. And they were concerned about things first, and they overcame some of those concerns. They reached out, they checked in, and they were able to make that difference. And if you're also wondering, should I become a foster parent? Should I look into this more? That's what this show is all about. Rather than spending a lot of time telling you how great it is, how wonderful it is to be a foster parent, which it is, this show is about helping you overcome those initial hurdles, those initial concerns that might even keep you from asking about it in the first place. And so either way, yes or no, it's good that you're thinking about it. It's good that you're making a decision, and it's good that you're here to take part in this with us. We want to help you make a good decision. Our experience at Medina County Job and Family Services, we find that most families worry about a few of the same things. So much sometimes that they can get in the way of actually taking that first step and reaching out to learn more. Things like, I'm worried about my own family. What will my family think? What will my kids think? I'm worried about how much time this is going to take or how much money this is going to cost. And sometimes those concerns get in the way. We've created a list of them at the fostermedina.com website. We call them myths because they are usually unfounded concerns, but that doesn't mean you're wrong to wonder. It means that you want to make the right decision and you need good answers, and we think that's a good idea. So we're glad that you're going to look into that. It's at fostermedina.com, and you can download that list there. There's also this entire series of podcasts that we talked about. So take a listen, take a look, give it some thought, but by all means, don't say no before you know. That's what this is all about. Today, we want to talk about some of those concerns with someone who should know. She is a foster parent, and she helped put the list of myths together. More on this as we get into the show. Our guest today is Layne Hedden. She has been a foster parent for 8 years and has more than 10 kids that have been in her home under foster care, and that she's been able to help. So she's really been able to make a great difference in Medina County and in the world in general. She's also the foster parent recruiter, and she has been for 4 years at Medina County JFS. And so what we're talking about today is being a foster parent. We're also talking about making that first step to talk to someone about it. Layne Hedden is our guest, and she's the one you're going to want to talk to. Layne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. And thank you for everything you've done to put this show together and for really foster parents everywhere and trying to help them overcome some of the issues that they have. We really do appreciate you're making a difference, Layne.
Thanks.
I know you don't like me patting you on the back.
Nope.
I get it, but it's important that you know. And so let's talk to the folks that are listening now. Can you tell us a little bit about, in your experience, even in your own experience, what do you find are the things that you're most concerned about when you decide, when you're getting ready to become a foster parent, in your experience and an experience that people that you've talked to? What's the biggest concern? We talk about a lot of the concerns. What's the biggest one?
I think probably the most overarching concern is the unknowns. And I think probably most of the myths that we talk about, most of the concerns people have fall into all of those unknowns, because there are so many. You don't know what it's going to look like for your family. You don't know what the kids who are placed in your home are going to be like, how they're going to fit in, how long they're going to stay, what that story is going to end up like. And as someone who does not like unknowns, I like to have things organized and scheduled and planned. I like to know what's happening next. That can be a really tough hurdle to overcome. But that's part of the reason why we put together that list of myths. And some of those are, what if I become too attached to this child who comes into my home? That's probably the one I hear most frequently from people. a lot of people who are interested in becoming foster parents have that helping heart, that really compassionate heart. They want to help people. And so along with that is also someone who's going to fall in love with kids, who's going to care deeply about them when they're placed in their home. And so that is a concern for families. I'm going to care about this kid. And at the same time, I'm going to be working toward getting this child back with their biological family. That's a hard thing to face, especially before you've done it, before you've tried it, before you really know a lot about it. So I think those unknowns are really, really tough. If you have children in the home, it's hard already in the home, your biological children, it's hard to know how they're going to respond to kids in the home. What's the best age to work with, kids coming into the home with my kids and their ages. How much, will I have enough time to do this? What does that even look like to have a kid come into my home? What are they going to come with? What is their family going to be like? So those unknowns, I think, are just the biggest hesitation.
There's so many things that they're probably just sitting at home and talking and thinking about, and they only think of the negatives. You don't always think of the amazing positives. That Foster Medina myth list lists out the myth and then talks about maybe why it's not necessarily such an overwhelming concern. But how did they become myths in the first place? Have you ever seen when it didn't go right, when maybe bad news travels fast? Let's pretend something didn't go right and maybe one of these myths came true. What's the worst that can happen? What can you share about that?
Sure. And I think they did become myths because there is some truth to all of them. They're not crazy. They're not outlandish. They are things that people are right to be concerned about. They're things we want people to consider before they become foster parents. Do you have enough time to do this? You have to have space in your home. You have to have a bed for a child and space for their belongings. You are probably going to become attached to a child. We hope you do. That's what we want. These children need attachment. They need people who love them. They need to be part of a family. So there is truth to those myths, and that's how they came to be concerns and hesitations for people. But, on the flip side of those, it is extra time in our family schedule. It does take time to take children to appointments and to visits with their biological family. We are squeezing another child's activities into busy lives. Everybody I know has a busy life already. Most people's lives are already full. So it is true. You are adding another person's schedule to your life. You do become attached, and we've had of all of our placements, they've all left our home. We have not had any children stay. So that's hard. We become attached to those children, and that is very hard to be able to say goodbye to them, and send them on their way, and for our family to kind of grieve and recover and move on.
How do you move on, Layne? How do you justify that?
So you justify it because somebody's got to do it. We can't just abolish the foster care system. It happens. It's, we don't like the situations as they are, but somebody has to do it. The kids have to go somewhere. They didn't choose to be in foster care. It's not anything that they've done or chosen to end up where they are. So the way our family views it and discusses it is, if we can choose to do these hard things or accept these hard things or make a little room in our schedule or get attached to a kid that's really going to hurt when they leave, that's something we're willing to do to help a kid who didn't choose to be in the situation that they're in. They're going to be in that situation either way, whether we step in and help or not. Yeah. So just facing the challenges head on and knowing that they're going to be there. We're never trying to paint it to be sunshine and rainbows. We know it's not going to be that way. There are hard things. Sometimes it can be hard to work with the biological family. Sometimes it can be challenging to work with within the system. Like I said, it can be hard when kids leave, but knowing that we're going to face those things, but knowing that it's worthwhile to have maybe made a difference in a child's life. And then, moving on looks like for our family, just helping each other grieve. We tell a lot of stories. We look at a lot of pictures. We spend some time together and just kind of shore up our family unit a little bit before we're ready to move on. And then we move on and welcome another kid.
And some of those stories that you're talking about, when sometimes it gets hard, this goes into your role at Medina County JFS. There's a support system there in place. If it gets hard, that's real. That's not a myth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People aren't alone. I think people are worried that they're going to be on their own, but it's not that way, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And that's something I think we're really proud of at Medina County Job and Family Services. The team there is just fantastic. And it's actually how I ended up in this role, just because I just felt so passionately about how much we loved working with the team and how impressed we were with just how much care and compassion there is for these kids, how well the team knows their kids. These caseworkers, they're not just kids on their caseload. They know these kids. They care about these kids. They want what's best for them. And I always tell people, it's not like when you have a child placed in your home, they're not dropping the kid off and going, bye, best of luck, hope this works out for you. And then you don't hear from them again. That's not the case. You're part of that team. You have people checking in with you. You have people to lean on for support. And then we do a lot of extra things just to try to provide a network of support for our families, a community of foster parents that, we lean on each other a lot. We help each other out a lot. We have support groups. We have activities for families. And just like I said, the staff and the team is just fantastic. And you really are not left alone.
And one of the concerns that people have, that we've identified that people have, is that maybe they can't make a difference. Maybe there's not big enough need. Maybe they aren't needed as much as a foster parent. That's not the case, right? There's a huge need for foster. Can you tell me a little bit about the need that currently exists?
Sure. Yeah, there is a very big need for foster parents. And that's not just Medina County. It's the state, the whole country. There's a need everywhere. We're average maybe about 150 kids in our system right now. And we have about 50 families, 50 licensed foster homes. And it's always changing. It's always moving. We never know what kind of kids are coming into the system. And even if we have available homes, they may not fit exactly the dynamics of those kids coming in, because you do have the opportunity to say, this is the age I'm willing to work with. These are the gender I'm willing to work with. And you are able to specify some of those things. So to be able to have a wide range of homes available when kids are coming into the system is just such a benefit, because then we can really place kids in the best possible placement that is a really good fit for them, a really good fit for the family, and just kind of equals success for everybody. So the need is definitely there. I think it's easy to, I don't want to say ignore the need. I don't think we're ignoring it. I think it's more like blissful ignorance. We're just kind of going about our daily lives, and you don't bump up against it. You don't really know it's there. But once you see it and open your eyes to it, and we hear this a lot from our foster parents, you can't unsee it once you see it. And then you're very aware of what's out there and what that need is.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What happens? How's the system work? If there's 150 kids currently in the foster system, but only 50 families, what's happening there? How does that work? Where are those other kids going?
Yep. Sometimes they're placed with relatives, which can be really good for kids, just to kind of keep them in a familiar place, someone they already know. It could be a family friend, or, a teacher or a coach, somebody that they're already familiar with. So sometimes kids are placed there. Sometimes we're using network homes, which would be some of the private agencies across Northeast Ohio. That is moving kids a little bit further outside their community often. So it's our preference to have Medina County licensed foster homes so that we can keep kids here in their community. School age kids, we're trying to keep them in their school system. We're trying to keep those connections with friends, with relatives. If they're involved in activities, they have a job, whatever that might be, the more connections we can keep for kids, the better it is for them. So when we have more licensed Medina homes, we're better able to do that. So when we don't, we're reaching outside of our borders a little bit more, moving kids a little bit further away, which, makes some of those other things a little bit more difficult. And then sometimes we're using group homes when needed for kids.
So one way or another, you're figuring it out. But if we had more foster parents available, then of course your options are better, and the kids' options are better as well. I want to think back, if we can, Layne, think back 8 years ago. You were probably struggling with a lot of the same myths that we're struggling with now and talking about now. You overcame them, and now you've helped multiple kids as a foster parent. What's the biggest surprise? So all those myths were unfounded. Let's pretend.
Yep.
What was your biggest surprise over the last 8 years? What didn't you think about that actually happened as a foster parent, good or bad?
I can think of a couple things. I think first, my biggest surprise was how much we enjoyed connecting with our kids' biological families, how it wasn't just helping a kid. And that has not been all sunshine and roses for sure. There are absolutely challenges there. But just being able to expand our family even more to include them as part of our family and to be a support to them. And when, when you're willing to listen and willing to hear somebody's story, you start to see how things may have ended up the way that they were. You start to really build that compassion and empathy and understanding of how kids may have ended up in your home, and just being able to open your arms and welcome them into your family as well, and just provide a little bit of support for them as well. So that was a little bit of a surprise to me. I didn't really anticipate having any interest or involvement in that whatsoever. But that's been a surprise. And overall, it's been a good surprise for the most part. And then I think the other thing was just how much the kids who have been in our home have changed us. I think we really thought, we were going to be doing this to change lives and to help kids. And I hope that that's true, but I really think that we have probably benefited more than the kids have just from having these kids in our home. They're just amazing, amazing kids that we consider part of our family now. And we feel like we just have this huge family now, even though some of the kids we haven't seen since they left our home, we've never heard from again. But, we have these memories and these stories of them. And I think that surprised me just how much room we all had in our hearts and how much it's changed and grown our family.
If someone's listening now and they're thinking, yeah, this is for me, how would I know, even before I talk to you, that I'm a good candidate to be a foster? What should I be feeling? Give me an outline. Maybe there isn't one.
Yeah, I think even if you're just thinking about it, it's probably worth exploring it. It's probably for you. It doesn't take a superhero. It doesn't take, anybody extra special. God's light is not shining down on us because we're doing this. It's ordinary, everyday people who are becoming licensed foster parents. And if there's even a spark in your heart or a thought in your head, I definitely think it's worth pursuing. It's worth thinking about. It's worth giving it a try. Even if you wind up impacting one life and decide it's not for you, that was worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. Is that true? Is it really just it's just any of us can do it? Isn't there more to it? Is that just a myth that I have? It just feels like that's like a superhuman effort. Like it's an amazing thing. What an amazing opportunity for me to impact. And like you said, there's so many other things. But how would I know that maybe I wouldn't be a good option?
Oh, that's a good question. We do have things in place that, through the licensing process, the agency has to look at to make sure that, certain boxes are checked and certain things are in place. And, I would say maybe if you've had some serious trauma in your past, that's something you might want to make sure that you've dealt with, or make sure that it's going to be okay for you, because we don't want to cause any extra trauma for anyone. We don't want a kid placed in a home that's going to be, a problem for a person or for a marriage. That's another thing you would want to make sure, if you're married, that your spouse is on board with it. That can be really difficult if only one of the partners is pushing for it and the other one is really not that interested. But otherwise, I would say there really aren't that many things excluding. Yeah. And we kind of help you through that, as we go through the licensing process. If there are things that we see that, we think may be a concern, we're going to talk to you about it. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll rule you out, but, it'll be something we talk about.
And, Layne, in all the other episodes, I've asked the different guests, the foster parents that have been a part of the show. I've said, when you reached out, did you feel pressured? What was the idea? What was that like? And every single one of them said, no, it was just information. However, there's 150 kids in the system, and 50, it's your job, right, Layne, to get these filled. And you want to get these filled. But I know you well enough to know, I know what the answer is going to be, and I want to give you a chance to say it. It's more important for you to find the right fits and make this right for the kids, isn't it? There's not going to be any pressure here if someone reaches out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally true. And, people will tell you too, if I talk to them and I feel like our agency is not the best fit for them, I will tell them that, and I help them kind of navigate and find what they might be looking for. It doesn't really do us any good to talk people into this and license people and place kids in their home and then have situations that don't work out very well. So it really is a benefit to everybody to help people find what they're looking for and find the right place for them, the right fit for them. I don't ever try to talk anybody into it. I'm pretty honest and open about, the challenges that we've experienced and faced, and what some of the potential challenges might be. But I also like to help talk people through things. So if they have concerns, we can talk about that. We can talk about the flip side, what the positives might be, as well as, the validation to their concerns.
And the amazing thing about talking to you about that is that they get to talk to you as a foster parent and as a foster parent recruiter. You can see and hear both sides of that story, the actual physical work that has to go into it and the empathy that maybe you've learned over time. Since you're here, and I'm thinking that people that are listening or watching are thinking about making the next step. They're thinking about calling you or reaching out. And I'm thinking the first thing that they are going to want to know after they talk to you is, okay, so what's next? So we might as well ask you, what's the training process like? So they've decided that, yeah, I want to find out more. I think I really want to do this. But then I imagine the first thing they're going to do is, how does this work? So let's go ahead and cross that bridge. How does this work? If I am interested, what's next?
Yeah. So the first thing we do is we do an agency orientation. I do those one-on-one. I just schedule them at your convenience. I have really flexible hours. So, even if you're working a traditional job and want to do that in the evening, we can do that. And we kind of go through the program, the licensing process, all of the supports that are offered to families, and answer any and all questions that we possibly can up front, just to try to, again, remove some of those unknowns and give you a better idea of what that's going to look like to be licensed, a licensed foster parent with Medina County Job and Family Services. Once we've done that, then if you're ready to move forward, we can go ahead and get you set up to start both the training and the application paperwork. The training is 24 hours. And it is available completely virtually now. So people can do it at the convenience of their schedule. Yeah. And it really opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of scheduling because of that virtual option. So, they try to offer weekend classes and evening classes and daytime classes. So there's something that fits every single schedule with the virtual training. If you prefer a classroom setting, we can help you find something in a classroom as well. Some people just prefer that learning setting. So we can work with you on that as well. But that training is 24 hours, and the paperwork can also be done completely online. All of the application, that whole process, we have a system that we use online where documents can be completed and uploaded. So that also can be done very conveniently from home, and we work with you through that as well.
You walk them right through the whole process. How long does that typically take, Layne, if everything goes along swimmingly?
Yeah, it depends a little bit. Some people like to take their time and really move through the classes slowly and process, or maybe they have some things going on in their lives that they're not quite ready to be licensed yet. And that's okay. We don't pressure anybody to get it done quickly. Some people, once they make that decision, they want to be licensed yesterday. So, they can move through it pretty quickly. And, like 4 to 6 months would be a pretty quick process. We have to do a home study, and that can take a little bit of time. So we do have to account for the home study as well.
Layne, as we wrap up, we've talked about the fact that it's just a phone call. We've talked about not saying no before you know. We've talked about just reaching out and talking with you. This is your chance, though, to talk to someone who's really on the fence. What do you want them to know right now, that if you could just kind of give them a hug and let them know? What do you want them to know about potentially becoming a foster parent?
It sounds so cliche, but just that it's so worthwhile. It really is. Like I said, just how much it's impacted our family. And I don't mean that to be selfish. It's not about our family. It's about the kids. But a lot of those concerns are, how is it going to impact my family and my home? And it's been so worthwhile, and it's worthwhile for the kids. We know that, but until it's a real child in front of you, that's hard to really be as a motivation, I think. But once you meet these kids and you get to know them, it's just amazing how much it impacts your life. And it just really is such an amazing thing. So we feel like it's a privilege to be part of the foster care system and to be able to work with families and kids and their families. And we really love it. And it's so worthwhile. I know, like I said, it sounds cliche, but that's just the best I can say, is it's so worthwhile.
I think that's all you need to say. And things that are, once they're on your heart, that it's something that I need to look into. It's such a worthwhile opportunity just to find out, and just to know. If you don't find out, if you don't look into it, you can't make that impact. If it was meant to be, you're missing that opportunity. And so So Layne, we're going to wrap the show up. I'm going to give your contact information if people want to reach out to you. I'm going to give that in a second. But I want folks to know we're going to do a bonus episode. One of the concerns that people have is, how is this going to affect my family? And you've been doing this for a lot of years. You have your own family, and we're going to talk to one of the members of your family. We're going to talk to your son. Can you tell us a little bit about your son so that people will want to kind of go and find that episode too?
Sure. Yep. My son, Alex, is 18. He was about 9 years old when we started fostering. So it's been, over half his life now that he's been a foster sibling, and he's definitely been part of kids coming and going. My kids love being part of the foster care system as much as we do. And he definitely has really connected with a lot of these kids. I think he has a unique viewpoint and experience and some things to share about what that's like to be a biological child in a home and have kids coming and going. And sometimes they're not a perfect fit for your home. So he has an interesting viewpoint on what that's like as a biological child in a foster home.
I'm excited to talk with him, and I hope that folks are listening and watching now will look that episode up, because I have a feeling we're going to shed some light on some things that people probably already concerned about. So Layne Hedden, Thank you so much for being a part of our show. I'm not going to make you pat yourself on the back again, but you're doing God's work, and I appreciate it. And I know it's better for you than for others, but it's still, I can't say enough. Just thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Bryan.
Folks, that's Layne Hedden, and you're going to want to talk to her. If you're listening to the show, it means that maybe you're thinking about becoming a foster parent. Maybe you have some concerns. Maybe you're wondering whether this is the right time or it's the right step. It's just a phone call. You've just met Layne. She is the nicest, warmest, kindest person you'll want to talk to, and she has all the experience that you need. She's not going to try to talk you into or out of anything. She just wants to talk. And if you want to talk to her, I think you should. You can reach out to her on her phone. She'll allow you to call her or even text her. It's 330-667-0167. You can also email at info@fostermedina.com. That's Layne Hedden. She is the foster parent recruiter with Medina County Job and Family Services. Remember, our goal on this series isn't to talk you out of your concerns or to talk you into doing anything. It's to give you the confidence to reach out and discuss these concerns with us, and then make a good decision for you and your family about how you can make a difference in a young foster child's life. For more episodes, please subscribe to this show. We'll get them to you as soon as they are available. You can see them at fostermedina.com. You can link them to wherever you're kind of watching or streaming your favorite shows. And whether you do or don't become a foster parent out of this process, just remember, there is a lasting effect from your decision. Your decision will be felt one way or the other. And so we are glad that you're taking the time to make the right choice. For the Foster Medina podcast, I'm Bryan Lefelhoc, and thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Foster Medina podcast. We hope you found the answers you were looking for, and we'd love to talk to you more. To download the Foster Care Myths information sheet, click www.fostermedina.com. For more information or to contact us with questions, call or text 330-667-0167 or email info@fostermedina.com. The Foster Medina podcast is brought to you by Medina County Job and Family Services.